on the Maneuvering Watch.
Stephen Brock, if you've seen the book Bubbleheads, the Med Run. I went with Stephen Brock just because of Stephen King. I thought, if he went Stephen, I could go Stephen. But most people call me Brock. Even in high school, people called me Brock. In fact, a lot of people thought that was my first name, but it's not. Anyway, I asked Dave a long time ago. I say a long time ago, it was last year, which is, just a month ago. Anyway, if you wanted to do something like this, and we wanted to make it about submarines, and that was part of me, my history, my past, was I spent 4 years on the submarines. Now, I know there's people out there who have spent like buku year on different submarines, and I applaud you people. I got out after 6 years in the Navy and went on to do other various jobs, ended up being an electrical designer, which just means I do 3D modeling on a computer for electrical systems. But I'm married. I've got kids. I got 2 kids, wonderful kids, wonderful wife, very happy. My wife's got a dog. I tolerate it. And, and that's about it.
So it was, in fact, last year. It was literally.
It was
2 days ago. No, I think it was back in November when we started talking about this. And the way this came about, I'm Dave, by the way, and I am a former ballistic missile fire control technician, not a missile technician. I want to be very clear about that. I was we served about the same time. I was in from 1981 to 1991. I got out after 10 and a half years in what was clearly the second worst decision of my life. I should have been one of those people that went buku years on submarines, but I didn't. Buku, by the way, being a Navy submariner term for many. You're going to hear a lot of those kind of things. So if you have questions, shout them out because we can answer them. I got out of the Navy for all the wrong reasons. I really did. I have a rule. I have a whole list of rules. They're called Dave's Laws, but one of those is never believe anybody who tells you that God told them to tell you something. If God wants to talk to you, he's got your phone number, he'll call you. So, but I let people convince me that God wanted me to do something. And so I got out and went to seminary, which turned out to be one of the other big mistakes in my life because I did not belong in. Let me tell you what, putting a submariner in seminary is, that's dangerous. Put aside all the submarine stuff. Just the whole attitude about life and the whole, the things we learned along the way. And I was very young when I joined, Brock. I enlisted at 17.
Wow.
Went to basic training about a week after my 18th birthday. And I came from a very, very conservative religious family. I came from a family in Utah, which was not LDS, by the way, but we were very conservative and religious. And let me tell you what, my first few weeks in basic training were eye-opening to me. I did finish seminary, much to many people's surprise. Graduated, became a minister for about 5 years, and then realized that this is not where I belong. So I went into nonprofit management for a few years, and then found I consider it to be my second calling. My first calling was clearly being on a submarine, but my second calling was radio. I managed to get a job as a radio talk show host at KFIV in Modesto, California, where for 10 years I had the afternoon drive slot. And at the end of that 10 years, my wife really wanted to come back to Washington. And so Washington State, not DC, I was down in California. And we had met up here when I was in the Navy back in the 80s. She really wanted to come back up here. The kids and grandkids were all here. So we decided that it was time for me to quit. So I did, which is very unusual in the radio business. Most people don't quit. They get fired. But I did quit. We were all set to move, and then my knee went to pieces, and I had to have a knee replacement. So everything got delayed until 2017 when we moved back to Silverdale. I literally live, I live, I guess, 2 miles from the barracks I lived in when I was stationed here aboard USS Michigan back in the 1980s. So that's, and now I'm not retired, but I'm unemployed thanks to COVID. But at the same time, I do have a 10-year-old son. So it gives me a lot of time to spend with him and work with people on podcasts and websites and likes of that, which is what I do for fun. I don't make any money at it, but I sure have fun doing it. So that's my life story. So when he came to me and said, we want to talk submarines and stuff. And of course we're both USS VI members, which is actually how we met. Steve you're the treasurer. Is that right?
Yeah. Treasurer, Denizens of the Deep.
Boy, that's
I know. And it's a great name of our sub base here in Aiken, South Carolina.
How'd you guys get away with that? Because I thought they had to be named after the Lost 52s.
I don't know. I remember being at the meeting years ago. It's probably been a dozen of years ago. And they were looking for a name for the base. And this guy stood up. He says, I got the perfect name. It's Denizens of the Deep. And everybody just like glommed onto it. Well, yeah, it was Denizens of the Deep. And,
I like it. I'm not complaining. Yeah. We're the Bremerton base. We're the here in Bremerton, Washington. We're the Bonefish base, named after Bonefish. But as I see it, I think there's 2 Bonefish bases, and I'm a little. And nobody ever calls it by the base names. They always call it Bremerton or Yakima or Portland or whatever. Nobody, except for the Blueback base. Everybody calls the Blueback base the Blueback because everybody knows where the USS Blueback is, which is in Portland. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, I mean, Rogue, Umpqua, were the bases in our district. And unless you know the area, you're not going to know where that is. Nobody ever calls it the USS whatever base it was. But that's it's a little weird. Anyway, that's how we met. I managed to get myself elected. Still not clear on how. As the current base commander, I was installed in January of last year. We had our February meeting, which was our annual breakfast meeting. And then a week later, COVID really hit Washington State, and we haven't done a thing since. I mean, so I started doing these video meetings thinking we'll do that. I was looking around for people that could be guest speakers. And one of our mutual friends said, hey, talk to this guy, the Bubbleheads, the book guy. And so I emailed you, and here we are, all these months later, talking about submarines. So what we thought we would do is talk submarines. Now, sometimes we're going to be incomprehensible to those of you that are not submariners. Don't worry about that. You got a question? It's real easy. Just text us, comment your questions on the posts, and ask away, because there are no stupid questions.
Right.
Only stupid people that ask questions.
I was just going to say that, but yes.
But no, you feel free to ask your questions. Those of you who are qualified submariners, one of the traditions of the submarine fleet is we give each other a bunch of hell. We expect that. We're ready for it, and we eagerly anticipate it.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. We're ready for it. Brock's a nuke. I'm a nuke weapons guy, so we're used to it.
That brings up something. We have a lot of similarities, but we have a lot of differences. Like you went to seminary, I did too. I never graduated.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, we both had radio careers. Mine was in West Palm Beach and Augusta, Georgia. We were on submarines, but you were a boomer and I was a nuke, and you were up forward and I worked back aft, and I'm straight and you're, well, we won't get into that. But anyway.
Speaking 2 words, sure. It's also kind of weird because neither one of us wanted to do the jobs we ended up doing.
Yeah, this is true. You mean as far as submarines? Yeah, I always wanted to be on an aircraft carrier, but that didn't.
Why?
Didn't pan out. I listened to somebody else, like, it was a recruiter. So, in my case, but.
Oh, those recruiters are great, aren't they?
Oh, they are.
They try to talk me into going to recruiting duty. I said, "Are you crazy? I'm the last person you want telling people." I mean, really, after I got out of seminary, they got mad at me because in my faith tradition, they have new people getting ready to go to seminary, being recruited to go to seminary. And I was always the guy that was telling them, don't do it. Don't. Unless you have a burning bush in your backyard.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I would not have been a good recruiter. Although I was on instructor duty for about 4 years. And I didn't want to do that, Brock. I didn't want to be an FTB. I wanted to be a sonar guy.
Yeah.
I'm really, sound is my business. I'm a former professional musician, radio, podcast. I mean, sound is what I do. And so I really wanted to be in sonar. And the Navy said, no, we need you to be a weapons guy. And nobody even knew what it was. That's the amazing part. In basic training, where they let you pick out what they want you to be. Oh, nobody even knew what it was. And so anyway, it's not that I chose to be on boomers, but literally the only place that FTB could be is on a boomer. I mean, there's
makes sense.
Tender and short duty. That's it. That's all we got. So
I never really understood sonar techs anyway, because they sit in that room and it looks like a matrix screen where all this stuff comes down, and they can tell you.
Yep.
I look at that screen, it looks like, like a bad TV reception. But they know what it is. I mean, they know, oh, that's biologics.
Yeah, and the really good ones can do that. They can look right at the screen and go, yeah, that's what that is, or they have to listen to it.
Right.
Which is amazing to me. But that's how we got started. So what we figured we'd do on this first episode is we'd kind of, you begin at the beginning. It's a very good place to start. So when you get ready to go to sea, and the submarine gets ready to pull out, they station the maneuvering watch, which is a special, I guess I was looking I have a whole collection of Blue Jackets manuals dating back to the 40s and 30s.
Wow.
And I guess they used to call it the seakeeping stations. They didn't call it maneuvering watch, which I didn't know. I
didn't either.
I know the Navy changed, before I got in it, much as it has changed now. It's not the same Navy now, but I didn't know that. So anyway, we used to set the maneuvering watch to head, excuse me, to head out. Sorry, I'm trying to eat a granola bar because my blood sugar is crashing. But anyway, normally I have a rule about that, Brock, which is never eat while you're talking.
Oh, well, that's something else we have in common. We both got diabetes.
Right. And we also have one more big thing in common that we'll get to us eventually when we start talking about commanding officers.
Oh yeah.
We share a commanding officer. So, So when they set the maneuvering watch, the very first time, tell me about your first time. Tell me about that not the sea trial stuff, where you just go out for a day or two, or we used to go to Daybob Bay or whatever. The real one where you're really you're out of Norfolk, right?
Right. I was out of Norfolk.
Yeah. Tell me about that very first time.
Well, I have to back up to when I actually reported on board. When I got there in Norfolk, I got there just before midnight, so they put me on the tender because they didn't have a way to get me on the sub. So they put me on the tender that night, and that morning I go in, and and talked to a personnel man who wasn't on board, but he's saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, the Lapon is pulling out in 2 days for a med run." I'm like, "What?" You know, I wasn't. They didn't even put me in BQ that I could remember. It seemed like, I stayed on board for a night or two, and then we were underway. In fact, I signed over a power of attorney of my motorcycle, because I rode a motorcycle up there, to that personnel man who watched my bike and rode it a lot. But anyway, so when I went out, there was no, getting used to anything or anything like that. Okay, you're out there. Now, obviously, I wasn't qualified to do squat. Being new on board, I was there's different names for it. We called them OBNLs, or oxygen breathing no loads. What was the
Nub. Non-qualified, useless body.
Non-useful body. And I was a nub too. So when we went out, they were bringing the tugboats out, and they were saying, "Hey," who I found out later was my EDIV chief, said, "Pay Officer Brock, you need to go up in the bridge. They've got an issue up there with the light." And I'm like, I wasn't exactly sure what the bridge was, but I figured it out and went up into the bridge.
Up top, Brock.
Yeah, it's up top. Climbing up the ladder, getting up there, it's like there's people up there. The captain's up there. And yes, Captain Murray was the captain then. Then he says, "We have a light here that won't light."
Oh no.
And I'm a book learned electrical guy. So I'm like, I have to figure out why this thing won't light. So my first thought was, well, maybe the bulb's bad, so I undid everything, checked the connections. And as I remember, it was a bad bulb, which was easy. Thank goodness. So I got the bulb replaced, got everything back. I found out what buoy butter was back, at that time, and the importance of that. So I went up and down that ladder, I don't know how many times, a couple of times, two or three times anyway, but got the light fixed, and then got downstairs.
Down.
And
what?
Oh, excuse me.
You say?
Yeah, my brain will flip flop back and forth between civilian life and Navy life. But anyway, the next thing was I go down to the mess decks because there was no place else to sit, and everybody else was down there, or not everybody, but people who were not on watch. And of course, I wasn't on watch because I was a nub. And that's when, we were going through the Chesapeake Bay, headed to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. And this is what I found out, because I didn't know where we were going. But once we got out past that into the ocean, this thing started to rock. And I'm like, I had no idea what to expect at any of this, and it's just sitting there. And I got a little queasy. Now, I didn't puke, but boy, I did not want any food. And I had some antacids with me. I had a pack of Rolaids. And I started, chewing those things. But that was my first maneuvering watch. As a nub, not knowing squat about submarines or anything else.
Guess I got a little bit luckier. I am at the boat on the pier as she was coming back from Patrol 1, and got to meet the guy I was replacing and all that stuff. And then I got to do what we call an off crew, which is a 90 days while the other crew has the boat and takes on patrol. So I had 90 days of introductory type stuff, I guess. Had time to work on a few quals. So by the time the boat came back and we went down to take over and do our refit and get ready to go see, I was actually qualified the most junior watch station, the Nuclear Weapons Security Guard, or the Missile Compartment Roving Patrol. And because we were, stop me if you've heard this before, because we were so shorthanded, I went straight on the watch bill. I mean, Brock, I'm a pretty confident guy, even when I was 18 or 19, but they hand you a belt and a clipboard and they say, this whole compartment, the missile compartment, is the biggest compartment on the ship, is yours. Go forth and rove. So I stood a couple of watches before we went to sea. But then that first day I was on when they set the watch, the maneuvering watch, I was on the forward damage control team, which is even more useless. What the hell am I going to do on that? I mean, I don't know anything about anything. You know? So I remember sitting in the mess decks, because that's where we were, and the ship starts speeding up, and you can feel it you can feel the vibration as as we go through the Hood Canal Bridge, and she starts to speed up, and the water gets more choppy. Now, if you've ever ridden one of the Washington State ferries, you know what I'm talking about. It gets that bang, 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 that metallic noise as it's going. And the boat did the same thing. So I'm just sitting there on the mess decks, and I think our maneuvering watch lasted about 2.5 hours is the normal. So I had brought a book with me. I took a book with me. Boy, did I learn quick.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Nub? You ain't qualified anything. Put that book away. Start working on stuff. So that's what I did for 2.5 hours. And then I went right on watch for Missile Compartment Roving Patrol when they set the regular watch. So about an hour later, we get ready to dive off Port Angeles up here. And keep in mind, I mean, I did the Day-Bob Bay thing, but sea trials is not real to me. I mean, it still isn't. I mean, I know it is, but it isn't. The water's, it's in a sheltered bay. There's no other traffic, nothing. I mean, so we get ready for this very first dive, and ship goes down, and that rocking, it's like being in an elevator that moves in 3 dimensions, right?
Yeah.
And you can't, your brain is weird because you have nothing's moving in front of you. Everything's staying the same, but you can feel the movement.
Right.
So as we're going down, and by now we're into the Pacific swells, coming in the Straits of Juan de Fuca. So this is way different than anything I've ever felt.
Yeah.
Roving around as the boat goes down, and we have to drive those things down. The T-hulls have to be driven down. So I'm doing my thing. It's starting upper level, and yep, no leakage here. Good job. Second level, no leaks here. There wouldn't be any leaks in second level, and if there were, you'd have a problem. Third level is berthing, so third of the crew is already going to bed. People are still kind of stowing for sea and the likes of that. Lower level missile compartment is backwards from the old boomers. The machinery 2 on our boat on the T-hulls is at the back end of the missile compartment, whereas machinery 1 and 2 normally would be there. But anyway, machinery 2 contains the depth control tanks, which we use for hovering when we're launching missiles, right? To control depth control tank. They're hard tanks, which means that they are exposed to sea pressure, which means that that's hull right there, right?
Yeah, right.
Hole in this, you got a problem. So I get down to forward missile lower level, and I start hearing this noise and water splashing. Like, that's probably not good. I've been underwater now for maybe 5 minutes in my life. So I start hoofing it all the way back to the far end of machinery 2, which is at the back end of missile compartment. So 24 missile tubes. I'm walking kind of fast because I'm a little nervous. I get back to machinery 2, which is really the tail end of the missile compartment. There is water flying everywhere, and it is, how water sounds when it's coming in through a hole. It's screaming and screeching, and there's water flying everywhere, and I'm like, great. This is not supposed to be happening.
I would think not.
So machinery to third level is where the A gangers hang out, right?
Yeah.
There's a little hatch over this thing and a ladder that comes down the depth control tanks. Well, this hatch opens up, and MM1 SS Bull Durham, Ray Bull Durham, bald, bearded, glasses, his head pokes down through this hatch. Lights are shining off it. You know, I mean, it's just, you know how bald guys are. You know, especially. He says, and I'm quoting here, so don't hold it against me. This machinist mate, first class A ganger, who's probably made, I don't know, 500 patrols at that point.
Yeah.
Yells, "Oh, really bad word." Slams the hatch and leaves me standing there.
Really?
So I reach for the 4MC, which is on tube 23, and I'm rehearsing in my head. What am I going to say? Flooding missile compartment lower level. Flooding missile compartment lower. And I'm hearing myself in my head saying that. I haven't pushed the button yet, but before I could say, and we're talking maybe a half a second, maybe a second total. The hatch flies back open. Bull jumps from third level down to the lower level, which is it's a good 12 feet. It's probably the highest deck on the ship. He's got a big old wrench in his hand. He rips up the deck plates and starts turning a valve. And as he turns the valve, the noise stops, the water stops flying. I'm standing there with a 4MC, which is the emergency circuit for those of you who don't know, in my hand.
Yeah.
He stops the valve when he stops to turn it on. He looks up at me and he goes, "Bet you're glad you didn't do that, huh?" Yeah, but I don't know why. It turns out some genius, when they designed this thing, the potable water tanks are the deck plates for machinery too, on the bottom of and the vent, when they overflow, they put the vent pipe with the vent thing up against the depth control tanks. So it looked like the water was coming out of the depth control tanks, and screaming, and it was just the potable water venting. So anyway, Bull was pretty cool about it. He took the time to teach me. He took the time to show me how it all worked together, and then just chuckled because I damn near surfaced that ship on my first time. And that was, I guess technically it's not the maneuvering watch, but the maneuvering party is still up there, so I guess it counts, right?
Well, if they've closed the bridge down and secured the hatches, they're probably not stationed the maneuvering watch at that point.
Well, it wasn't the maneuvering watch, but I think they still had that I think they were still in that, everybody's hyper alert routine.
I don't think they secured the watches. I mean, at that point, I think they say something about station the
underway section 1 or section whatever.
Yeah, section whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I know everybody was. I know a lot of people were still missing. I would have never lived that down if it hadn't been if it had been anybody, but if it had been me, I mean, they wouldn't have lived that down. But Bull was pretty cool about it. So, and that actually taught me a lot about why it's important to begin to understand all this stuff and how it all works together and why it's amazing to me, the technology, which is why I wanted to be in submarines, but all the stuff that's there that you have to know intimately. And over the course of earning your dolphins, you'll learn it intimately. You will learn things that you never even imagined anything about. I'm sitting in fire control C school, and I'm not thinking about potable water valves.
No.
What I should have been.
That's the thing about when you go through your quals, you find out where the emergency shutoffs are for the air system, and you find out where these valves are that you need to know in case of damage control, and you find out where the damage control gear is.
Right.
As you're going through, like I can remember sitting on the mess decks and then finding out, oh, these benches I'm sitting on, they're full of all kinds of damage control stuff. Well, some of them got cans of food in them, but I mean, there's.
You didn't go to submarine school, right?
I did not go to submarine.
You didn't get to do the escape tower.
No, I didn't. Did you?
Yeah, I got to do it twice.
Wow.
They asked for first time we did it was so cool. And then the second time they were like, well, I guess they had done something to it and they needed to test it or something. And so they asked for volunteers to go back and do it again. Oh, yeah, I'll go do that again. Ho, 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 ho.
So you did the stanky hood then over the thing, and
yeah.
How long does it take you to float from the? I mean, they get you inside that compartment and then they start flooding it.
Yep.
I mean,
Pressurized. What it?
Yeah, because I'm a non-submarine school guy. So what do they do next? They
open the hatch and push
all
out.
the way.
Yeah,
huh?
they open the hatch and they push out. Now the stanky hood, it's a Mae West with a visor over the top so you can breathe, and the idea here is 45 pounds of positive buoyancy.
Mm-hmm.
So the first time we did it from 50. The second time we did it from 100. I think that's what they were working on, was the chamber at 100 feet. But at any rate, the thing will raise you up so fast. I mean, it's like that. So they actually have Navy divers in the water who will grab you and slow you down, because if they miss, like they did with me, you will come flying out of that water like a missile, man. It's like, and you don't have launch first motion, so there's nothing to light off. So you just right back in the water.
Emergency blow.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, they tell you, keep your hands over your head and keep yelling, ho, 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 so your lungs don't explode, right?
Right.
And they tell you, don't stop doing that until the diver looks in your face mask, and then you have to say, I feel fine. And if you don't say that, they will inflict medical care on you. I come flying out of that water, splash, laying there in the water on my side. Ho, 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 ho. It took them a couple of seconds to get over to me. Fine. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Maneuvering watches were always that first one, because I was on the forward damage control party. But after that, I got myself assigned as the topside phone talker, not just for maneuvering watch, but for small boat handling party. So I would be topside basically from the time we set the maneuvering watch until almost when we got to the dive point when we were coming and going. But when we were pulling in place, like we pulled into Pearl Harbor a couple of times, man, that first time we go to Pearl Harbor, I don't know if you've ever been there or not, but it's,
no.
You have this image in your brain of what Hawaii looks like, right?
Yeah.
So I come popping out of this hatch about, we're 45 days into this run or something. So I'm pasty white, more so than usual. And my head comes out of the hatch. I ain't nothing but ocean. And I said, I remember saying this. I said, thought it'd look a little bit bigger. and Mitch Shikaza grabbed my shoulders and he said, turn around, dumb bleep. So I did. Sure enough, there's Hawaii. We got pulled in there, and we're used to a banger where anytime we move a submarine, you got 3 tugs, you got line handlers galore, they are so ridiculously careful with us, it's not even funny. Really 3 tugs to move a boat into the explosive handling wharf or whatever. We pull into Pearl Harbor, and these guys are used to moving aircraft carriers around and cruisers and battleships and that. What are we? So they send 1 tug out with 1 line.
Oh, wow.
To pull to the Mary Point. And they are just not, they toss the line over, they tie it off, they go back to chip and paint. They're not paying any attention to us. So we get up next to the pier, and like I said, I joined in 81, and that was the era. Remember this, when women were just really starting to become sailors and more than just yeomen or foremen. So there's this Master Chief boatswain's mate out there on the pier as we're being pushed towards the pier. And he's got a whole crew of obviously E3 and below women. Right. And Tridents don't carry their own lines. There's just no place for them. So they have to toss them. So there's this gal on the pier, and she's got the heavy, and he's showing her how to throw the heavy and all that stuff. And he throws the heavy over, whoosh, and it hits the deck, boom, 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 boom. And Jeff Bone, missile tech second class, he starts chasing the Heavy. I don't know why. I have no idea why, but he starts chasing the Heavy, which is, of course, bouncing across the deck. And, of course, it goes into the water.
Yeah.
And he just keeps chasing it right off the edge, just like Wile E. Coyote, man. In the air and then push into the water at Pearl Harbor. So the water's what, 90 degrees?
Yeah.
And I'm laughing too hard to say man overboard. Like, man, by the time we get anything done for man overboard, he just swam over the ladder and climbed out. But that Master Chief had one of his girls throw the next Heavy over. She winds this thing up, throws it over. Mitch catches it, boom, ties it off, starts pulling it in. Gets to the end of it. She's let go. And he's just standing there. We're just standing there staring at her and the Master Chief. I could still see him on that pier, man, just looking at her like, I need to yell, but if I can't, because she might cry. You can just see the gears in his head going.
Yeah.
Oh man, I used to love maneuvering watch.
See, now you have a wealth of experiences that I never had since I was back aft. I wasn't part of any line handling crew or anything like that, so.
You missed out.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I did get tagged for stores load.
Yeah.
Things like that, laundry queen.
Never had to do that. I never had to crank. I never even got to crank, man.
I didn't crank either, but I did a laundry queen for our division until they decided to have a striker do it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we only had 9 E3s and below on anyway to start with, so. A little unusual, but it was it was an adventure. And in a lot of ways, Brock, I'm glad for that because how recruiters were in the early 80s. They wanted everybody to be nukes.
Yeah.
They made me take that nuke test. And I was like, dude, I don't want to be a nuke. I don't want to do that. It's not that there's anything wrong with it. It's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in sonar. I wanted to be in sound. No, nuclear power. It's where the money is. Reenlistment bonuses and blah, blah, blah. And
yeah.
Like, you guys are lucky I know how to take a test because I know exactly how to bomb this test. I think I got 7 on that nuke math test that they give you. This guy's staring at it like, 7? You would guess better than that. I'm like, sorry, I'm not good at math. So they send me to fire control school in advanced electronics where I'm having to calculate rum line distances, longitudes at 2 different latitudes. In my head, I'm having to do this later on. And it's like,
wow,
you got a 7 on the... I know how to do that stuff. I know how to do. Yeah, you missed all that stuff. You missed the dolphins coming out to swim.
Well, I did see that. We were down in the Bahamas one time. We had to do. We had to qualify pistol training. Is it pistol or gun? What did we call it back then? But they were 45s.
Right.
And you just had to go up in the bridge and fire the 45s out into the water a couple of times and then go back down. And then when I did that, went up the, and then when I did that, they pointed, at the dolphins that were in front of us,
and you shot them.
Yes. Flipper, eat that, eat lead, like, but there was I did get to see that once when I went up topside to do that.
Yeah, that was that's still one of the most amazing things to me because there's a whole pod of them that lives out near the Hood Canal Bridge here, which we have to go through. And every time we'd go out or come back in, man, them dolphins they love that. They love that crap. I wish we could speak dolphin because I'd really like to know exactly what they're saying because they're having fun and it looks like fun,
It's almost like they're trying to lead us back. Come on.
Yeah.
I find you got lost. We'll get you back home. You know, like
except for the one time they didn't show up.
oh,
Patrol 13, we were heading out, and they did not show up. Not a dolphin to be seen.
13. Wow.
Yeah, and I'm not a superstitious guy, but Patrol 13 did not go well.
Oh,
Not go well at all. That's a story for another day, I think. Well, that's time, I guess, then to secure the maneuvering watch and move on with our lives. We're I don't know how often we're going to be here, at least once or twice a month, right, bro?
I'm hoping to. Yeah.
If not more often. So what we need from you, and it doesn't matter if you're a submariner or not a submariner. If you are a submariner, we shouldn't have to tell you this, but if you're not a submariner, what we really need for you to do is comment. Really, these whole social media things are based on how many people comment, how many people like, how many people share. So when you see those buttons down there, they're there for a reason, which is not to be ignored. Use them. Say something, even if it's as simple as hi. We'd love to hear from you. We need you to share. We need you to comment. You can ask your questions. We'd love to have them. I'm sure we'll get something wrong at some point, maybe even on purpose, because that's what submariners do. They like to screw with people.
That's right.
And we'd love to hear from you. So contact us, like us, comment us, download us, share, talk to us. That's what we really want to hear as we share with you our experiences in submarines, but also as fine, upstanding members of the United States Submarine Veterans Incorporated, which is dedicated to the ideas and the creed of making sure that we remind people of the sacrifices of those men who are, and now women, still on eternal patrol. Which is weird for me that women are involved in this now. But Vice Commander's one. I got to say, Brock, I got to say something that no USS VI base commander's ever gotten to say before. My vice commander is expecting. That's so cool. So intriguing, and so much that I'm looking forward to. We're also willing, I think we talked about this before the show, and so we'll go ahead and throw this out here. We're willing to shill for your submarine product. Drop us a line. If you're one of these submariners that sells things, drop us a line. We'll shill for you. We're kind of negotiable on what we'll do it for. So neither one of us wants the tax implications of money. So.
Yeah, we're easy. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Well, easy, but worth it.
Yes, of course.
Which is probably a story for another day. I would imagine. Brock's good to see you, my friend.
It's good to see you. I know it's been a while since last year, right?
Yeah. Do you do that to your kids? Because I do that to my son when I get up on New Year's Day. Hey, I'm seeing you since last year.
I know. I did get to see my daughter New Year's Day. They came down for New Year's dinner. So I got to pull that. It was great.
At least you got to have New Year's dinner. Our governor says, don't do that.
Yeah, well, if you just put on a stanky hood, y'all be okay. No COVID problems at all.